Good evening. This is the podcast, the Surya Show. Once again, a very warm welcome to all our audiences, guests, and all the people who love us. In the podcast, in the Surya Show, the podcast that we have been bringing you for the last 3-4 weeks, we have been talking a lot about the tourism, about the global issues. Basically, we focus our conversation with our guest in the issues which is more into tourism, because tourism is a global phenomenon. It's a global thing now. Since we are into the third decade of the new millennium, tourism has taken a different shape now. Its dimension has changed. Lots of elements are now into the tourism. So, dear audiences, so we have a very defined social justice thing in Nepal. Since Nepal gained the status of a very new republican state in the early decade of 2010, things have been changed in different corners, in different shapes, in different dimensions of the society, and because everything is now becoming very global, very cosmopolitan. Nepal, boasts of a very, very excellent identity as a very gender-friendly country. Our constitution has guaranteed the rights of the minorities, and the good thing is such things are now into a very powerful concept now. We have this very interesting thing coming into tourism. It's actually taking a very concrete shape now, and Nepal is leading that momentum actually. So, what is that? What is that phenomena? What is the social justice we have been talking to? It's LGBT rights. And today we have a very special guest joining us all the way from a very far corner of the world, very far corner of the globe, Canada, Toronto particularly. He's my good friend, my dear friend, Mr. Deb. It's such a pleasure to welcome you in the show, the Surya Show, Deb. I am very glad that you made a time to join us in a very powerful conversation, I would say. Welcome to Nepal, Deb.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Surya, for inviting me to be a part of the show and a part of this discussion that we're going to have today. Wonderful topic that we're going to be sharing with you and your audience.
So, I would like to start by asking you, when you heard about Nepal being so much of a minority-friendly state, relatively being a very new entrant in the Republican setup. So, what was your initial thought about Nepal?
So actually, my history with the knowledge of Nepal being a welcoming state for LGBTQ tourists and people alike, citizens as well, was actually my work with the United Nations. In 2013, I was working on a research paper with the UN, which led to a conference 2015, 16, and 17 called the Global Change Initiative. Now, the Global Change Initiative was focused on a number of different factors. It was focused on government as a tool for positive change in the world, the not-for-profit sector, business, and how they can make positive impacts, and how we as everyday citizens can make a positive impact in the world. And so one of the researches that we studied was the impact of equality and equity rights for all, and how that changes the happiness index, and how that also changes the economy of certain countries. And that's when I learned about Nepal, and Nepal being the first country in South Asia, or actually in Asia period, to allow gay marriage. That's when I started to, it started to pique my interest, because being somebody from the South Asian diaspora as well, I understood that this was not common. This is not what was spread all throughout South Asia. And so to understand that my neighbors to the north, being somebody from Indian heritage myself, that our neighbors to the north were doing something very different, it was interesting to me. And so I dived deeper into the research and learned more about what Nepal was doing to make the world a more equitable place.
Sometimes when we talk about the different, elements, different aspects of development administration, or just let's say development politics, we tend to undermine how the small states like Nepal have been doing in a different fronts that are actually the global issues. So talking about the same thing of the social justice, social equity, acceptance per se, I think we can derive a lot from our own Hindu mythology, where we have seen such contrasting things in the past as well in our mythology, explaining different the acceptance thing, different characters being in the society. Even if you look and wonder about the our mythology like Mahabharata and all those ancient things, I think this part of the world has been doing quite wonderful, in this sense of equity and justice.
It's interesting that you bring that up and you bring up our ancient cultures and philosophies because if we actually look back pre-colonial times, we would see that, at least I can speak for the Indian subcontinent, which included Afghanistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, what is now Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. If we look at our ancient Hindu scriptures, we understand that the Tritya Pratraki was always a part of our culture. People of the third gender. It existed, it was always there, accepted and recognized as a third gender. And we're looking again pre-colonial time periods. Once we see European laws come into a place like ancient India, and look at the way that our cultures were run and how sophisticated they were, you sort of look at that and say, wait, that ideology of moving forward or becoming European or becoming civilized.
Yeah, and the best part about Nepal, being so friendly country, what we have been also looking into is how we can tap this very particular, very strong now, I would say, and it's a big market now. The LGBTI tourism, the travel, the essence has now really become global now. I think Nepal can tap into this market as well. So, what is your take on this particular segment going so strong these days?
So interesting you ask that. We came out of a pandemic recently. Prior to that, there are many different atrocities that happen around the world. But one thing that we've noticed every time that there is a big global catastrophe and the world pauses and people stop moving around is there's one community that doesn't stop moving around, and that's the LGBT community. Post-pandemic, LGBT destination weddings grew over 278% during that time when everybody was staying home. That accounts for 180 million tourists a year, spending upwards of around 3.7 trillion US dollars annually. They single-handedly are the smallest and largest tourism market at the same time. So when looking at the LGBT audience, you're looking at a community that travels very frequently and spends on average $13,500 US more than all of their straight counterparts in every demographic. So not only are they a strong community, they are possibly the strongest travel community that exists right now. On top of that, one of the things that we have to look at is if you are aware of the creative class and the rise of the creative class, is that we know trends start with a certain community, and that happens to be the LGBT world. As the LGBT community moves into a new area, they gentrify in a certain way. They don't remove culture. What they do is they add to culture. They add nightlife. They add arts. They add fashion. They become ahead of a trend that the rest of the world seems to follow afterwards. So coming back to Nepal and where that becomes important is not only tapping into that market, but when tapping into the LGBT community, you notice that what happens after you give it 3 to 5 years is you notice then people with large pockets start moving in. wealthier communities because they like the impact of the gay culture that was added. Once the wealthier communities come in, then you start getting everybody else, the mass market, because they all want to be a part of that wealthy lifestyle. So there is a trickle effect of the LGBT community moving in and moving in first, always ahead of the trend. That's really what we can see with the LGBT community.
And Dev, when Nepal started becoming a very, very, justified land of, state for the minorities. I don't really like to use this word minority because for me, everyone's is an equal creation of the God. So, maybe this is my very own personal, idea about the existence of, uh, different people were born equal by the God. So, yeah, I would love to avoid the word using the minority. So this is how I see everything around me and in front of me. When I would again like to take you back to our journey into the statehood when Nepal foraged into very nascent, very new, very young, and Republican state back in 2015. And when everybody were so, I would say there were different people with different ideas, but I think the whole state was very escalated in a very happy sense of happy mood, in the sense of happy mood when the constitution granted equal rights, when the same-sex marriage was legalized. It was ordered by the Supreme Court to get registered such marriage registration. So many things started happening in Nepal. And now when when a country like Nepal as a destination, as a tourism state, tourism land, as a growing power of tourism destination in the South Asia. When we look back in that time, I would say Nepal has been doing fairly good in this segment, and since we still have to work a lot of things about the hospitality, improving our services, standardization of the services of the industry to attract more LGBT tourists from around the globe. So I would like to know and hear from your side how your organization, how your agency is, doing things to, improve the travel around for those communities.
Excellent. And thank you so much for asking that question. So yes, Destinations is the world's first certifying body for safe LGBTQ travel globally. We started in 2013 again with my research with the United Nations, and we created this idea of a certifying body. I know that most organizations that exist out there, there are LGBTQ travel resources, there are LGBTQ travel agencies or tour operators, but we were really the first looking at being a certifying body rather than just a membership based association. Of course, today there are a number of other certifying bodies that exist, but when we started in 2013, it was with the goal and mandate of ensuring that organizations don't just pay a fee to market to an audience. It was ensuring that it was incorporated into the DNA of the organization: equality, belonging, inclusion, and diversity. Most most often than not, we see organizations that want to tap into the audience but don't authentically connect with that consumer. So we created this organization based on the underlying factor of justice and equity for all. So as we became the first, oh, sorry, please. Thank you. So, as we became the first organization to certify, what we do is we work with tourism boards, tour operators, hotels, restaurants, tourist attractions, transportation around the world to train, certify, and then market that organization to directly to the 180 million LGBT consumers that are traveling each year so that they know where and how to navigate the world safely.
And Dev, I would like to hear from your side as well, once again, one more time. What are especially the area of apprehensions, because uh, because I think and I hope that people from the LGBTI community would love to travel to Nepal, come to Nepal, see those majestic mountains, experience the such a rich culture here, meet the one of the most hospitable people in the globe. So, what are those areas of apprehensions, when people choose the destinations, whether the destination is LGBT friendly or not? What are the main areas of concerns for them?
Thank you. Thank you. And I love that you mentioned that because that's exactly why destinations exist. The number one choice when making a decision where to travel, 98% of LGBTQ people look at safety and security first. That is their number one selection criteria and their number one apprehension when choosing a destination. The next 92%, 92% according to the IGLTA, actually choose the destination based on a country or a province or a state or a city's support of LGBTQ communities. So, what we're looking at is we're looking at a community that is extremely dedicated to their safety, protection, and support of themselves. So, when they see an organization like the country of Nepal, or or an organization that produces a beverage that supports that community, they in turn support that organization. We're seeing it happen right now with a lot of backlash when it comes to pride parades, and a lot of corporations pulling out. And we're seeing a community that feels left alone. And so what has happened is people within that community then stop purchasing that product. So what we're very aware of is we're very aware of individuals who come in just for the pink dollar, who know that this is a wealthier community, who know that this is a community that likes to spend and supports their own. And so we're aware of that. We're aware of when people just come in and want to take advantage of that, as opposed to support us for who we are, what we are, and advancing the human rights.
And how does your organization, can partner with the different DMOs or the agencies or the tour travel operators or even the hospitality industry, the hotels, resorts, to make them, more accustomed to the demand of the LGBT community travelers? How do you plan, or do you have such any customized, tailor-made programs to, to make them align with the demands of the market?
Yes, actually, that is exactly how Destinations was designed. Destinations was designed not to reach out to every single hotel and restaurant in your country. We were actually designed to work with your tourism board, your DMO, your hotel association, your restaurant association. We were designed to work with those associations who would then reach out to the hotels and gather the list of members. We work with you to train those individuals, those staff members, those team members, those associations, so that they are aware of cultural sensitivities, they're aware of barriers placed against LGBTQ people, you're aware of terminology, and you're aware of what that audience actually that particular audience is actually looking for, so that you can authentically connect with them. That is the most important factor here.
And how do you find, the general perception, or the response, or the acceptance level of people from the different destinations, from the different countries, when it comes to, welcoming the LGBT travelers to their own destinations? How do you see the graph of acceptance is going, or is moving up, or is stagnant somewhere?
So actually, I'm gonna share a stat with you, but I want to quiz you on something. So when I first started Destinations as a result of that UN project that I was working on in 2013, so we're going back 13 years ago, there were 54 countries out of 197 at that time, 197 UN nations that were deemed legally safe for LGBTQ people, not just tourists, people in general. So again, 54 countries out of 197 UN nations. Fast forward to 2024, and Surya, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. How many countries do you feel are safe out of 197 UN countries?
I think
If in 2013 we had 54, 2024, how many do you think we had?
Maybe more than 100 now.
So you and I are on the both on the same side of the fence. I would have loved to see us go from 54 to 100. But the reality is we dropped down to 9 countries that were considered legally safe for LGBT people. So we went from 26% of the world to just about 4%. And having that said, that was the reason why we pushed forward with destinations, because we knew that the LGBT community continues to travel and move around. And if we had seen over that time period of 11, 12 years that certain countries have rolled back their LGBTQ rights, and the world hasn't become the safer place that we've hoped, that we needed to actually push the agenda forward for destinations to exist.
I think that the data you presented to us, you shared with us, is very, it's a kind of big worry for us because we'd love to see the global community, improving their level of acceptance from 26 to almost 78. That is what we expect, what we had expected. So the drop is really worrisome, that should not be the way it is.
It is, and that's why destinations actually exists, right? So that we can see the world become a better place, so that we can see the world become a more equitable and safe place. So for destinations, it is an opportunity to use our education, knowledge, and lived experience to share with different countries and destinations around the world to help them understand the importance, not only the importance of the community, but the importance of providing true human rights. But
Exactly.
now there's an opportunity for countries like Nepal, who stand strong in their commitment to the LGBT community, to say, hey, we are amongst those that are still here when the times are rough,
Yeah,
when everybody is rolling back their
exactly.
commitment to LGBT communities, when everybody's pulling their dollars back from pride parades. We are still here. We were always there. We were and we're here in the hard times, and we're there in the good times as well. This is the opportunity that I see for Nepal.
That's so nice of you, Dave, having all those wonderful comments, compliments about Nepal. And we have, I think, we have really moved very exponentially from the level of acceptance is concerned, because now we have a lot of member of parliaments representing the minority community now. And I have already mentioned to you in the beginning of the podcast that Nepal is above par on many issues when it comes to social justice, equality, non-discrimination, everything. I think we have a lot to show to the world.
And you know what's important is when you mention that you are ahead of certain countries and ahead of a lot of nations when it comes to social justice and equity, is looking at social justice not as just an economic driver.
Exactly,
This is a
exactly. Yes,
historic
yes, yes,
driver
yes.
for the country, right? Not only for the country, but for the world. When you stand foot first in the door of equity, of justice, you lead others. So, one thing that I do want to say is one, congratulations. Two, I know that there's a lot of rhetoric about Nepal being such a small country, but here's one thing, it only takes one. At the end of the day, and I am going to share some information from around the world, but at the end of the day, Marsha P. Johnson was one person who threw a brick at Stonewall. At the end of the day, Reverend Brett Hawks was one priest in Toronto who authorized gay weddings. In India, Prince Mavindra Singh Gohil, one single gay royal who came out and said he was LGBTQ. It all starts with one. So small and mighty is a thing, Nepal. Just know that small and mighty is a thing. And that is the story of the LGBT community. We only comprise of 4.9% of the world. We are a very small community, but we stand proud in who we are. And that's where I see the alignment with the community and Nepal. Two very small communities that stand together in their conviction to say, we are going to do what's right for individuals. So, one, congratulations on that. Two, continue moving, because what we're seeing is we're seeing the world is watching. The world is watching Nepal. The world is seeing what you're doing, and the world is following. If you've seen this, Surya, which I'm sure you have because of the position that you're in, I think you've seen the discussion around Asia, around LGBTQ, and you can see the needle shifting. And it really is a result of one person stepping forward and saying, no, we're not going to stand for this anymore. We're going to move ahead. And that's what Nepal did. When you are the first, others look, others see, they take notice.
Yeah, this is something which always take proud in doing that as a state, as a country, as a political republican state. As you have mentioned, it's not about the size, it's not about the volume. Sometimes it's about the intention. Sometimes it's about putting the feet in the right track, and also
Yeah.
sometimes as you have mentioned, it always takes one to take up the issue and raise the hand, and we can always find many to tango later on. So this is how all the leadership, I think, move ahead. So they've just let me ask you some very particular things, like how different you can judge uh, to different countries. Let's say Canada and Nepal, in this particular issue, how these both countries fare at the moment.
So what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a huge shift in ideologies. We're also seeing a huge shift in priorities, which is very important to underscore here. As I've mentioned before, we're seeing a lot of companies pull their dollars out of the pride parades. We're seeing a lot of organizations making silent donations and saying, you know what, here, take this, just don't put our name on anything. It's no different from countries. What we're seeing is the same thing with countries. We're seeing shifting priorities. And, it could be the result of low economic times where they say, we have a different priority of ensuring that people are safe, people have money, people have food on their tables, and people still have shelters to live in. It could be, physical uncertainty about wars and about conflicts going on in the world. But what we're seeing is, and I hate to use this phrase, but what we're seeing is true values coming out in people. As I mentioned, in the hard times is sort of when you know where your friends are, where you know where your allies are. And this is what Nepal is. Nepal has always been there to encourage the human rights, even in the times that it was tough, when there was no one else doing it and no one was watching. They stuck with their integrity and they said, this is what we're doing. But this is where we are in the world right now. We're at a place where we're seeing a lot of true intentions or a lot of true levels of integrity and a lot of true beliefs coming out of organizations who were really, or countries who were really only there because they saw that this was an opportunity to make a significant amount of money through either tourism, economic development, arts, culture. And when times get rough, you see that scale back. So in comparing, nations around the world, it's happening globally. This is not just isolated to Asia or Europe or North America. It is a global issue that we're all facing right now.
And with the new generations being very open, being very proactive, and being very rational, I think the level of acceptance will again reach to the point where we all would be looking at that growth, at that level of acceptance, and say that yes, we are moving in the right direction. So they've uh, you are looking dashing in that rainbow colored salt wrapped around you, and
This is my pride dupata, yes.
in a very strong sense of solidarity, I have also kept a very pink pocket square in my coat.
we've noticed, we've noticed your allyship.
Thank you very much. And Deb, since you have talked so much about the prospect of Nepal being a very LGBT friendly tourism destinations, any plan of flying down to Nepal from all the way from Toronto in near future?
Of course. Actually, in our conversations prior to this, that's sort of the plan. I find that Nepal and destinations are a natural fit for each other. And what I would love to see is a partnership between Nepal and destinations programming so that we can bring that to Nepal, help grow the LGBTQ standing, help grow the market not only the consumer market, but the market in terms of promotion. Let everybody know that Nepal is a safe space, that there's so much to do, whether it's nature, whether it's cities, whether it's yoga tourism, whether it's gastronomy. There's so much culture to experience in Nepal, especially as an LGBTQ person, where you know that you can walk, move around safely. You're not scared of which neighborhood or which street you walk down at night. You're not afraid of which restaurant or nightclub or bar to go to. And this is the most important thing. These are the things that people don't have to think of. And so it changes the experience of the tourist. So my plan is to, yes, make it out to Nepal very soon, create a partnership with Destinations X Nepal, and see how we can show the world all the amazing things that you're doing.
Yes, and Deb, sometimes it goes beyond, or it should go beyond the purview of just business. I think when we talk about the people from different, different orientation, different preferences, because this is something that we should be, very clear about how we, develop the sense of acceptance, welcoming to every community people. And what I've always been a very true believer of the fact that we all are equal. At the end of the day, everybody is equal. Everybody is the son and the daughter of the Almighty God. So this is what this is how we should be, creating something out of this the common. I would say how, as you have mentioned, how the modern world is shaping up these days. I think sometimes it's more of humanity and the human rights than anything else. I believe that way.
It is. And thank you for standing by that. Thank you for standing by your integrity. Thank you for standing by your mission that you set out for almost 15 years ago in Nepal. You said you were going to do something and you've done it and you stuck by it, even in the hard times when things are changing and the world is focusing on different priorities. You have stayed steadfast. And so, one, I want to thank you for that. Two, I want to congratulate you.
Yes, thank you, Deb. And it's been lovely talking to you over the last few weeks. And actually, I have already mentioned that it's my pleasure to have you in my show, the Surya Show, the podcast that we bring to the different, tourism sector people once in a week. And I hope the conversation that we have carried out today in the show would be very beneficial to all those tourism fraternity of Nepal too, who are looking into this LGBT segment of tourism and the travel. And I just hope that you do very well in your movement, Deb, and we just hope to see you soon in Nepal with some excellent plannings, programs of the destinations your agency, and we will definitely charter some partnership in the future to make Nepal known as a very friendly, very welcoming, very receptive host country for the LGBT community from around the globe. And it's been wonderful talking to you, Deb.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to see you live and in person again, and when I make it out to Nepal. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Thank you.
And thank you to your audience for listening.
Yes, yes, definitely. They will love your conversation.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much. Have yourselves a wonderful day.
Yes, you too, Deb. Thank you.